let's start with our icebreaker question of the show. Since post WrestleMania, obviously, WWE's been working towards Backlash, and now they're preparing for their summer event in terms of with SummerSlam. Who has been the most impressive WWE superstar post WrestleMania to you so far, Ty?
Io Sky. I would say, for at least for me, Io Sky. I've been trying to keep up with everything that's been happening post Mania, and to be honest with you, the thing that's resonated with me the most has been seeing Io Sky be properly given the ball for right now. Oftentimes in WWE, you'll see people win championships.
First of all, we're not asking for Cody. We're just wondering where he's at. Listen, I'm not asking for him. I'm just saying, listen, he's been missing. He's supposed to be the guy. He's not here. He's not doing his responsibilities. I'm trying to help you out.
No, actually, Cody not being on TV is kind of refreshing after 3.5 years of having his narrative pushed for us. So,
yeah, exactly.
but yeah, I'll say Io Sky. It's nice to see somebody be given a championship and being given the opportunity to run with it and actually be in a prime position. It looks like Rhea's being moved out of there a little bit. It's because, when you have the same people on top, it's not so much that you hate the cast, but you also would like to see the rest of the cast. And that's been a talking point we've had for a while. So, and not to say that Io hasn't been part of that cast, but there was a pecking order, and it seemed as though Io wasn't allowed to really move any higher. So, yeah, I'm happy to see Io in the position she's in. I'm happy to see that her little mannerisms starting to get over on social media. He's been doing this taunt for a while, but now everyone's getting behind it. It's nice to see people that deserve it get that love.
I saw a baseball player do it recently. And by the way, Mimi, happy Haitian Independence Day to you too. Shout out to Black Wrestling Podcast. Happy Haitian Independence Day to our Haitian sister over there at the Black Wrestling Podcast. We're just asking questions in terms of Cody. Like, listen, I'm not saying we want him back. We just, listen, you lost the championship, you took your ball, you went home, man. That's you're trying to find the whereabouts.
Took your ball and went home. That's a bold statement, man. That's come on, man. That is.
Like happy Haitian Flag Day, and to Gene, my other Haitian, happy Haitian Flag Day to you, bro. But yeah, man. For me, I know he's not getting enough time on TV, but the one person that's been most impressive to me has been Karrion Kross. I know Eric's not here to basically fight me on this because of the fact that, listen, but ever since the Wyatt situation kind of fizzled out, he's found ways to get himself back on TV and continue that kind of what Bray did with the hurt and heel situation, but in his own way. You see it with the New Day. You see it with, AJ in a sense. You see it with the, who else? Sammy, because if I'm Jey Uso, I'm looking at Sammy, keep my eye on Sammy a little bit. You start to see these things happen on Raw, and he's been the conduit of that, and he's starting to get more TV time. And from what I've been hearing, he's been selling out with his merchandise as of late on WWE Shop. So he's been impressive to me, man. They gave him back his song. I just hope that they can put more to him because WWE is going to need, especially Raw roster, they're going to need a lot of people to step it up going into the summer months because usually that's when the WWE usually have their dry periods. So this will be a good time to see who's going to show out the first iteration post Mania because it's kind of like the preseason for them post WrestleMania. So they're trying to see who's going to be a major player going into next April in New Orleans. So for me personally, I have Karrion Kross as one. Anybody else that's impressive to you outside of
outside of EO?
Yeah, outside of EO. Yes, 1 2.
It really comes back to the women for me. It's been a lot of the women taking the opportunities they've been taking, whether it be Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, what do you call it?
I got a quick question. Do you feel that how better yet, are you impressed the fact that Julia has been able to basically ascend to the main roster at this rate?
No, the talent's always been there, but it's always been more of when it comes to certain talents, you think of more of a timing thing. Is it the best time to bring somebody up? Is it not? And in reality, there is some, unfinished business in NXT. You can make the argument, but at the same time, it doesn't hurt for her to go there. A lot of people would make the argument that she didn't have to go in the first place based off of her merit. So in reality, it doesn't hurt, doesn't harm. My only thing is that on the main roster, I always have a fear when it comes to certain talents because the established stars being there, usually when you bring them up and have them face those established stars, they get knocked down a few pegs and then they essentially go into the mid card of their divisions, right? In the case of Julia, Julia can do whatever she wants. She doesn't have to be in the world title scene per se. But I have always maintained I just want the respect to be there. I want the characters to be treated properly. All the shit that they've earned in NXT should be, accounted for on the main roster. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to be shot to the top, but they should have a leg to stand on. In the case of Julia, Julia could be a perfect person to take the U.S. title away from a what do you call it, Zelina Vega down the road. She could also be a perfect person to go after a world championship down the road as well, because you can't tell me that Tiffany Stratton versus Julia won't be an interesting sight to see at some point down the road. But considering who else is at the top as well, maybe that'll be put on delay for a while. You never know. But as long as the respect is there, that's really all that matters for me.
Quick, another question on top of that. Do you feel like who do you feel have the advantage in terms of like the biggest potential on the main roster? Do you feel like it's more so the women or the men?
The women or the men? I'd say the women.
Good answer. Because I was going to go on that route too.
I think in terms of sheer numbers, there are too many men on the roster for most of them to reach their potential with the way they're doing storylines right now. There's a higher chance for the women, just in my opinion, almost objectively. But it really comes down to filling out those other divisions and finding those spots for them. That shouldn't be as hard as they've made it the past couple of years between the secondary titles introduced and the tag team championships. What they really need to do is knuckle up, sit down, and think about what we want to do and what foundations we want to build for those divisions. That way, all the storylines can flow properly, and then all the non-title storylines as well. They need to focus on those as well, because not everything has to be about the championship at every waking moment. So I think the women have a higher upside. I want success for both the men and the women, but I think they have a really, if they were smart, they would try to multiply what NXT has already done with the women, showcase it on a bigger stage on the main roster, and have that be one of the main draws of watching the show. Because all the women have been showing is not only are they on the same level, but if you give them the opportunity, they're going to outperform what the men are currently doing. And then you build up that healthy, not necessarily competition, but you help motivate each other and build each other up so that everything fires on a higher cylinder. So,
you know what's crazy? Because it's like, and we've talked about this since probably like 2018, when like that year was pretty much dominated by EO on that roster between EO and Shayna Baszler when they were cooking on NXT, and we kind of envisioned an idea like a world where like the women, because of their talent, would kind of outshine or be more of an addition to the main roster if they ever got that together. And the vision is somewhat slowly coming together, and I like it I love it for the women, because it's like we've been asking for this a balance between the men and the women for so long, and obviously they've made strides. Now that we're here, there's also rumors of another evolution coming up soon. I'm not sure when they're going to basically do it, but the fact that they're talking about it, which I know someone's listening, because we talked about this like months ago in terms of like how would it feel, or how would it look like if they did another all women's pay-per-view. And now with everything coming up, like the realization is here, and I think for the women, it's a huge time for them to be in this position in every division or every part of the card, whether it's the top of the card, if you're a main event, if you're a main event, if you're in the mid card, if you're in the tag team, or even the lower of the card in terms of if you're a woman in that division. I think they finally have the pieces. I just, like you said earlier, I just hope that, they have to knuckle up and kind of figure out the structure and organization in terms of how they execute it.
Well,
and you know, well,
in terms of 2018, I hated that year for a number of different reasons. The women were
I
not,
know.
but the women were casualties of some of those events because while Evolution was a fun event to see, these damn battle royals. There were 6 battle royals in 2018 that meant
We didn't
nothing,
need, we didn't need any of that.
and one of them was at Evolution. I believe Nia Jax won it, and it didn't really result in much for her. I know that. Well, I've heard rumors that they're going to do another one this year. I really hope that they make it mean something for the women to actually like maybe the winner gets a championship opportunity for their respective belt. That would be nice. As far as another Evolution event, of course, I need for these matchups to be. It's going to be a celebration of all women, but I need some of these matchups to be very dynamic. Like I need them to up the ante from the previous Evolution because, like you said, they do have the pieces. Now, granted, they lost a number of them with these releases in the past 6 months, but they still have a deep enough division to where that show should be spectacular. I hope some of those pieces are re-added because some of them should have never been thrown away in the first place. But
Mm-mm.
they should be able to outperform the previous Evolution if done well. Um, I would like to see some callbacks to the previous Evolution. I mean, one of the biggest highlights of that was what do you call it? Having the NXT Women's Championship defended on the show, if I remember correctly. So get some of those belts out there. You have you have 3 world, 3 secondary, and 1 tag, and you have a bunch of legends you can call. You have a bunch of different people. You have so many. At this point, you're spoiling us. Please spoil us. I want to be. I want to have a sweet. I have a sweet tooth for this. I want to be spoiled rotten. I want a cavity in terms of how they go about this because this could be a really fun night.
No, that's a fact. That's a fact. Another thing before, but like another thing to add before we move on is like I love the fact that at this time in 2025, I feel more excited for the women than than mostly the men. Not because of the fact that the men can't necessarily handle their shit. It's just the fact that I know what they're capable of. Seeing the women being able to have an opportunity to showcase what they can do a little more, I think has been great for us. And I think looking at NXT under Sean in this era has been a conduit of it. Obviously, looking at now the merger with TNA and seeing what they're doing over there, and obviously, you know, this it's a working relationship. Can't necessarily run away from that. Seeing how like the quality has been, you see it from Jordan Grace, you see it from Julia, even Roxanne, who's teetering between NXT and Raw, and Stephanie Piquet having some good matches on network TV or Netflix. Um, it's really good to see like how these young girls are being showcased while still having the vets and those who've been, you know, trudging along the newer girls along. I just like what I'm seeing, at least from that standpoint.
Same.
Because from the men, you know you know what you're gonna get from Punk, you know what you get from Seth Rollins and those other guys. You can see where certain things are going. Not saying it's not as exciting. I just think that from the women aspect, it adds more to the show itself in
It,
terms of their success and in terms of what their potential could be in the show. Because because like you said, we always need balance. So to see the women kind of uphold that level and slowly, catching up in that little, between the men and the women, I like it, and I'm here for it.
no, absolutely. It's definitely like for some people might interpret it weird, be like, "Whoa, this that." Let me explain. Similar to how we were saying earlier at the top of the show, how the Knicks have had their storyline kind of built throughout the year, and how a lot of different teams in the NBA in general feel like they're reaching better heights with their franchises. That's kind of how we feel when it comes to the women. It's not so much that the men can't or this and that. It's more so the momentum that the women have been able to have organically in the past 2 years, doing this kind of in the background, but it's being shown, but it's you're seeing all these highlights and flashes, and now it's becoming a more regular and understood part that hey, not only are there women of multiple different disciplines outside of the bigger stars that we already know doing great,
Mhm.
but you're also seeing them really they're it's not even just oh we're seeing it and it's good, oh it's fantastic. Now it's being like now you have to understand that this isn't just a treat. This is a regular part of the show. Yes, for the past decade or so, we've been seeing the women do some amazing things, but we felt like we were in the infancy of watching this stuff for WWE at least, right? So to see 10 years later after the revolution started, then now it's like, oh, not only we've already established this as a part of the show, but now this is vital to the heartbeat of the show. That's nice to see. And you want to see more of it, and you want to see the wealth be spread across all the women, from anyone like a Michin who's taken full advantage of the opportunity she was given and working with things, all the way to the current stars that are getting the shine, like the EOs and the Stephanie Vickers and and the Nine. So that's really more so what it is. I want to see more women get that wealth spread. I want everybody to get paid. And honestly, again, the perfect place for that to not culminate, but the perfect place to celebrate that in full and in mass will be Evolution if they pull the trigger this year. And then I'd love to see what happens post Evolution, because I can imagine that garnering a lot of eyes, a lot of attention. And with that comes momentum, which, like we said before, with the momentum that they've had recently, if that just springboards their momentum even more, the road to WrestleMania should be even more interesting then, and should have way more of an impact for the women, as opposed to just a couple of appearances that we've seen the past few years.
No, shit, I'm with you on that. I just think that, like, to kind of close this question, the first question of the show, I just think progressively, because the rhetoric online is this, that they don't do this, they don't do that, but when they're actually doing something that's benefiting, sure, because oh no, they're not pushing black, no, like, sure, we understand what's not being presented or in terms of representation and whatnot, but when you see that they're actually trying in terms of helping the women as a whole and how much they pushed for it as well, the women themselves pushed for more opportunities to be more, presentable and have more airtime to showcase what they can do. That helps a company's morale significantly, because it doesn't just look like a regular boys club anymore. Like, it's not, wrestling promotion is not like how it used to be back in the 60s and the 70s and much of the 80s, when Vince or Gagne or Jim Crockett, whomever was running these promotions back in the day. There are more women doing this now than ever. Like, you can't shut Pandora's box. Much like how the WNBA is starting to grow, and people are enjoying that game almost more so than the NBA up until this year's playoffs. But still, you see what their talent has been showcasing and garnering interest from people to be really invested in terms of what they're doing. And again, like, this has been a good time in wrestling for them. So, like, shouts out to the women in wrestling right now, especially in WWE, and in terms of what they've been doing. But we can just pack up this conversation and just go to the next topic of the show. This shit, Ty.